Back. It's a Thirsty Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch. Thankfully, my friend Frank is back with me. We're coming to you live as we do every day, Monday to Friday, live, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Newsmax headquarters in Midtown Manhattan, downtown. It's a joyous day on the New York Stock Exchange, up over 300 points on the subsiding fears about the China trade war, and the bulls are on a run today, and Bitcoin is breaking down, and we'll talk to you more about that a little later in the show. But speaking of breaking down, we have breaking news, and Frankie's got all that for us.
Well, John, the day's top story is definitely this Inspector General report, which paints a pretty damning picture of James Comey. Now, James Comey, this guy has got to be the most out-of-touch guy that I've ever seen, and the most holier than thou, because he's actually in the midst of taking a victory lap on Twitter because they found that he didn't commit any crimes. Now, this guy was the head of the FBI and is now bragging over the fact that this report found that he didn't commit any crimes. Now, we're going to break this down in detail next hour, but let me tell you what this report did say about James Comey. It said it could not have rebuked him in harsher terms. It said that he set a dangerous example by releasing sensitive information to create public pressure for official action. I mean, you read that, thank goodness the president fired this guy.
Thank goodness is right, and thank goodness we have with us joining us today is Dr. Nan Hayworth. Dr. Hayworth is an esteemed eye doctor, and she's also our congressperson right here in New York, on the board of the Independent Women's Forum. Yes. And Dr. Hayworth, you always have wonderful observations for us, but you were in Congress, you were in the swamp, you know what's happening. What do you say about this James Comey breaking news?
Well, it is, and Frank, you said it exactly right. No one has been more self-aggrandizing in his purported superior morality than James Comey. And what he illustrates, John, to your point, is the danger of what we have come to call the deep state, of abuse of federal power. And one of the expressions I use is that, government works at gunpoint.
Yep.
And that's why we want to minimize the power of government. We do need government to protect us from crime, from fraud, to respect contracts, to respect the rights in our amended Constitution. But James Comey and his ilk in the Obama-era DOJ clearly saw as their mission to subvert anticipatorily and then afterwards the results of a legitimate election.
And the shame of it is it used to be progressives or liberals that would get the most upset about law enforcement officials, especially pretty high up in the ranks, abusing their power.
That's right.
I mean, you'd expect them to be screaming bloody murder.
No, because they see, and this is the pernicious nature, especially we have now at least 2 generations of Americans who have been, by and large, educated, indoctrinated to believe that government is the source of all societal good.
Well, that's definitely something that we're seeing playing out with respect to the Democratic presidential primaries and the economy.
Yes.
Before we delve into what some of the Democrats running for president are proposing with respect to taxes, spending, and other aspects of the economy, how's the economy doing overall as you sit here? We heard 72% of economists are predicting a recession. Now, of course, eventually they will be right. There will eventually be a recession.
It's like the eventual left in Florida, right?
Someone's going to win the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
So what's your take?
The sun will come out tomorrow.
What's your take in terms of how things are looking right now?
Well, that is the story that so many on the left and in the mainstream media, the discredited, rightly so, mainstream media, are trying to suppress. The economic news is fantastic. Just today in the Wall, wages have been rising in the Trump economy. Wages are rising, particularly for those who were left behind in the relatively lower socioeconomic sectors in the Obama economy. Yeah. So tax cuts and deregulation work, and whatever they may be hearing that tries to discredit President Donald Trump in ways that are thoroughly distorted and unfair, they know in their in their pocketbooks and in their lives that they're actually doing better.
Yeah.
And they should follow those instincts.
And these kids today, you're talking about the gains with younger workers. These kids today, when Obama came in, they were like 10 or 12 years old in their formative years,
no, you're right? Absolutely.
And now they saw their families struggle. They saw these middle-class workers having higher taxes, less rights, and now they're getting older. Now it's 10 years later, and they're like, hey, heck, my teens stunk when Obama was in, and now look at all this opportunity.
That's
so
right.
It may be a good sign for Donald Trump.
Well, I think it is a good sign for President Trump. To my mind, and I come from a science background, as you know. The laws of economics are somewhat like the laws of physics. You cannot deny pragmatic. You can try to suppress pragmatic economic behavior, but basically it has to do with human nature, with our desire to improve our prospects. A healthy sense of self-worth and of dignity, and this economy allows that.
Well, so want to ask you about the president's criticism of the Federal Reserve because he continued to criticize them yesterday for raising interest rates too quickly. Should the president just let the Fed do their thing without political interference?
Well, I think the Fed will, if you will, Frank, I think they probably will do their thing. You can't deny, when I was on the House Financial Services Committee, the influence of politics does affect the activities of the Fed inherently just because it affects the economy. So Ben Bernanke would always tell us there's only so much we can do with monetary policy. You folks, you lawmakers, have to change the course of our economy. You have to change government spending. We can't sustain the debt we have. Donald Trump, through his fostering of a better economy, has actually helped put us on a better course. His complaints have entirely to do with the fact that we're the best house in a bad neighborhood, and it's very true that relative to the way other central banks are behaving, in some ways, he feels that may put us at a disadvantage, and there are many others who agree with him.
Speaking of the best house in the worst neighborhood, we got the bestest doctor and former congressperson you're ever going to get, because we try to bring you all the time the guests that know where the rubber meets the road. And the good Dr. Hayworth is not only a businesswoman, she's also did her service to our government, so she knows all sides. Dr. Nan, thank you so much for joining us.
And I brought you a gift, John, an Enjoy Capitalism lapel pin.
Okay.
And I got one for Frank, too. Yep, I'm wearing mine. And this is a great way to support great policies. And for folks who live in places like New York, where they may worry if they wear a CAG hat that they're going to get smacked in the face, wear your Enjoy Capitalism pin.
We're gonna enjoy capitalism. We're gonna enjoy Question Tequila, and we're gonna enjoy Thomas Kehoe, Chief Executive Officer of Kingsbridge Strategies, right after this.